friends, it is Courtney and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, thanks for stopping by and spending a little bit of your day with me. Today, it's time for the mid-year book Freakout tag. I don't think that I did this last year, but I thought it would be fun to do because I haven't really talked that much about books I've read this year at all, just kind of here and there, like peppered throughout vlogs, but I thought it was time to sit down and do a dedicated video to what I've been reading. So the first question is, if you see me looking down, I of course, as always, have notes. So the best book that you've read so far this year. And the best book that I've read this year is called IQ, and it is by Joe Ide. It is the first book in a series. It's like, I guess it would be more like mystery thriller kind of genre. IQ is the main character of the book. His name is Isaiah. They call him IQ because he is very, very smart. What gives this book a little bit of a different spin is that IQ is young, black. He is from Compton, I believe, and the crimes that it's sort of like the premise of The Equalizer, if you will. Like, he investigates or sort of gets involved in cases that the police refuse to do anything about or can't do anything about within the confines of the law. He is brilliant. He is also a high school dropout. And there is some disability rep. I'm not sure if the book comes out and says that this character is autistic, but he is definitely neurodiverse. You see him throughout the story kind of struggling with sensory issues. And then we also, like, since this is the first novel in a series, we get the kind of setup of the backstory of the character. His parents, I can't remember if both of his parents were in the picture, but at some point he becomes orphaned, and it's just him and his older brother. His older brother really looks out for him, keeps them from going into the foster care system by dropping out of school and working to provide for them. And you know, like a lot of older brothers, he is very impressed with his little brother, who is this genius, really is like his one man, like, hype crew, who is like, oh, you know, Isaiah, you're gonna go to college and you're really gonna do something with your life. And his brother is killed in a hit and run, and so that like backstory is kind of what drives him a little bit. We also get the story on how he became this kind of man of the people in his neighborhood. We see him kind of thwart an abduction of a teenage girl in the very first chapters of the book, but then one of his old high school friends hires him because his client is a hip-hop artist who is like being threatened in some kind of way, and so he hires IQ to kind of figure out what's going on, and we see that story play out. It was an excellent read. I think I read it in 1 or 2 sittings, like over the course of a day, and I can't wait to kind of dive into the series a little bit more. Question number 2, the best sequel that you have read so far. So it's not a sequel in the it's not a sequel in the traditional sense of the word, but I read Moonflower Murders, which is the second book in the Susan Ryland series. It is also a mystery written by Anthony Horowitz. The first book was The Magpie Murders, and it kind of sets up Susan Ryland, who is a book editor, as kind of the sleuth in this book. It is very much a little bit of a throwback to classic mysteries of like the 50s and 60s. It very much reads in some ways like an Agatha Christie novel, and we also get a novel within a novel, which was the same kind of concept in the same concept of the first book, The Magpie Murders. So in this book, Susan Ryland has left London. She is in Greece with her partner, and they are running like a small hotel. A family shows up, the Trehernes, and they hire her to find their daughter who has just gone missing. Their daughter Cecily has read the Moonflower Murders, which is a fictionalized, it's not even really a fictionalized account of a murder that took place in their hotel that they own in England. It sort of is inspired by those events. And after she reads the book, she says that the wrong man has been convicted of the crime, and then she goes missing. So they contact Susan hoping that since she was the editor of the book, she might have some insight into whatever their daughter picked up on that made her think that something was amiss. So we get the beginning, which is kind of the current day timeline, and then the entire middle chunk of the book is the actual book, The Moonflower Murders. So the main character in that story is a fictional detective named Atticus Poon. He is very much like a Poirot-like character. And then the last quarter of the book, we get the current timeline once again, and kind of Susan putting the pieces together. It is a very long book. I listened to it on audio. I think it was 16 or 17 hours, but you do get 2 full complete stories. So you get the entire Atticus Poon novel in the middle of another novel. And I really enjoyed this book. I actually enjoyed it a little bit more than the first one. I had a really hard time getting into the Magpie Murders and kind of I remember enjoying the Atticus Poon story in that book a little bit more than sort of what was happening in like the modern fictionalized world. And in this book, I enjoyed both kind of parts of the story. Question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read but want to. A new release that I haven't read that I'm dying to read is Anna K. Away. Last year I read Anna K. It was one of the 5-star books that I read last year, and it is sort of a modern spin on Anna Karenina. It takes place on Manhattan's Upper East Side. It has kind of a Gossip Girl twist to it. All of the characters are teenagers. It was a YA book, and I absolutely loved it. And as someone who had not read Anna Karenina, I think it was one of those books I was supposed to read in high school, but I just got the Cliff's Notes to it instead because it's like 900 pages. And I think Cliff's Notes might be dating myself because I don't even know if that's a thing that exists anymore. But because I could not recall the exact story of Anna Karenina, at the end of the ending of Anna K completely like gutted me, and I remember after finishing the book just sitting on the couch and sobbing for like an hour. If you've read Anna Karenina, you know what happens. But anyway, there is a sequel to the series called Anna K Away. It picks up where the story leaves off, and how Anna kind of deals with the situations that happened at the end of the first book. She leaves her home and goes to Korea. The main character, Anna, is half Korean, and then her mother is white. So you get that sort of biracial identity and kind of struggling with that a little bit in the first book. So I'm interested to see what happens in the second book. Question number 4 is most anticipated new release of the second half of 2021, or releases, I guess. I have a couple. The first one is, I think maybe it's due to be released in July. I'm not sure of the date, but it is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, who is also the author of Blacktop Wasteland, which is currently on my TBR. I am on a little bit of a wait list to get that one from the library, but I've heard really great things about it. I think so these are kind of like heist books, I guess. Razorblade Tears is about 2 fathers who are sort of on a quest to avenge the murders of their son. One father is black, one father is white. Their sons were married, I think. I'm not sure if they were married or just like in a committed like partnership. No, they're married. So Ike Randolph is an ex-con. He's been out of prison for 15 years. The cops show up at his door. The last thing he expects to hear is that his son Isaiah has been murdered, along with Isaiah's white husband Derek. Ike never fully accepted his son, but is devastated by the loss. Derek's father, Buddy Lee, was almost as ashamed of Derek for being gay as Derek was ashamed of his father for being a criminal. But Buddy wants to find out who killed his son. Ike and Buddy Lee, 2 ex-cons with little else in common, except for a criminal past and their love for their sons, band together in a desperate desire for revenge in their quest to do better for their sons in death than they did in life. Hardened men, Ike and Buddy Lee will confront their own prejudices about their sons and each other as they rain down vengeance on the people who hurt their boys. So that sounds really good. I am also really interested in reading Velvet Was the Night by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I really, really loved American Gothic. I read that last year. It is also authored by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I just think she has a really great way of creating this atmosphere. A Mexican Gothic was kind of like a ghost story, like haunted house thriller, if you will. And her ability to really create the atmosphere in that novel, which takes place in the 50s, was amazing. I believe this next book, Velvet Was the Night, takes place in the 70s, so I'm really interested to see kind of what she does with that era. And the final 2 books I am looking forward to at the end of the year are Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead, who also wrote the Underground Railroad, and oh God, what is the other one? It's about like a boys' school. I can't think of the name of it. But I just think he is an amazing writer, and his commentary through his writing on race in America and in society is really, really sharp. And So I definitely want to read that. And the other, actually there are two. I have The Man Who Died Twice, which is the second book in a series. I read the first book last year. It was called The Thursday Murder Club, and it is about a group of seniors living in this assisted living facility who end up solving a murder, and I just really enjoyed it. It also is very much of a throwback kind of to the golden age of murder mystery books, but I thought it was really great to see characters in their 70s and 80s be the main characters and portrayed in a way that we don't often get to see in books. And also The State of Terror, which is a thriller by Hillary Rodham Clinton and Louise Perry. I am an HRC fan. I am a Hillary Clinton fangirl. This is your daily reminder that Hillary was right about everything. And I also really enjoy Louise Penny's work. She writes the Three Pines mysteries that I have enjoyed. I haven't read the last couple. I believe at this point there might be like 19 or 20. I think the last one I read was 15. But I really, really enjoy the characters that she creates. They take place, her books take place in a small like township in Canada. The main character is a police lieutenant or commander, I guess. I'm not sure of sort of the hierarchy of the Canadian police force, who had worked like with Quebec Police Department, and they're just really like solid, well written. If you're looking for a mystery series to kind of dive into, I highly suggest those books. The first one is a little bit slow, but they're really great, and I love that her characters are also like middle-aged, but they're fully like developed, interesting characters, and I really appreciate that. So I am excited to see what those two come up with. The fifth question is the biggest disappointment that you've read this year. So for me, that was The Lost Apothecary. I had high hopes for this book. It is a work of historical fiction. We get the dual timelines. There's like the modern timeline of, I don't even remember the main character's name. That's how boring I thought she was. And then we go back in history, and there is an apothecary, and the woman who runs it is really doing so to help out. I believe it's in the 1800s, 17 or 1800s, and she's really does it to help women out of the tough situations that their society has put them in. She really offers poisons to these women as a way to kind of kill their abusers and get out of bad marriages or bad family situations. The modern character kind of finds this little bottle, and it like she goes on this quest to kind of figure out the story behind it. We're supposed to draw some kind of parallels between her kind of escaping her marriage, which is not great. Her husband has an affair and is really intent on kind of dismissing the way that she feels about it in an effort to reconcile and stay married. And she kind of flees to London on they're supposed to go on this anniversary trip. She ends up going alone because she finds out that her husband is cheating. There's also this kind of parallel in that she has always really wanted to be a mom and have a baby, or she thought, and her husband has really put that on hold as he kind of achieves things with his career, and is kind of talking her out of it and saying like it's not the right time. And then we also see how like bearing children, or the like choice not to have children, kind of plays out in the like past timeline. I really was disappointed in this book. I thought that it was the premise was really good, the execution was boring. I didn't have any interest in the main character. I thought she was a little bit whiny, like, you know, she had put her desire to go to grad school and enroll in this like literature program in England off to get married and sort of settle down into the suburban life. And basically it was just like, oh, how brave is she to, I don't know, it was just a privileged bore, and yeah, disappointing. Number 6 is the biggest surprise of the year for me. That was a book called Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Elle Casamano, and it is kind of like a cozy mystery. Finlay Donovan is a recently divorced mom of 2. Her ex-husband is a jackass, and she writes these sort of I guess like campy romance books underneath a pseudonym. Her ex-husband is a jackass. They had gotten divorced because he was cheating with their real estate agent or something. But anyway, she sort of bumbles her way into being mistaken for a contract killer, and we kind of see her navigating this throughout the book. It was really funny. I think the character is like in her 30s, but I related to her a lot. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Some of those kind of observations about suburban life were, I could relate to them a lot. I thought they were funny. It's a little bit sexy. There are 2 main characters. There are 2 men who are sort of vying for her attention, and then there is a friendship that she develops with her nanny, who sort of becomes her partner in this contract killing situation. I thought it was delightful. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars, but I will definitely check out the next book in the series. Number 7 is favorite new author discovered this year. For me, it was Simone St. James. I read her book, The Sundown Motel, last fall and really, really loved it. And this year I read another one of her books called The Broken Girls. And these are sort of historical fiction, mixed with a ghost story. There are dual timelines. The main characters are sort of young women who are in their late teens, early 20s, I think, who are sort of trying to figure out themselves and what they want in their lives. I really thought that the observations that she makes about young women in those years of their lives, as well as the way our society in general tends to treat teenage girls and young adult women, was really like fascinating and poignant. I thought they were spooky but not scary. I don't enjoy horror, but I really loved these 2 books. So I will definitely check out anything that she writes next. 8, newest fictional crush. I don't think I have one because I tend to read a lot of like mysteries and thrillers, and they tend to not have great people in them. So yeah, I haven't read one. Newest favorite character, I think IQ. Well, I think that I have two. IQ, from the book IQ, I just think that it's going to be interesting to see how that character develops as we dive into the backstory. There was in that book, there are, I mean, most of the characters are male characters, and they're all black men or like Latino, Hispanic men, and the way that the author really is able to break down like the sort of toxic masculinity that exists in those neighborhoods, and also like within the hip hop community, because there is like a rapper who is part of the storyline, and he is having like this kind of crisis and mental breakdown, and like how that's treated by him and the people sort of in his inner circle. I thought that that was really interesting. I'm also interested to see how the neurodiversity of IQ kind of plays out in future books. I also found Finlay Donovan funny and relatable as someone who is a stay-at-home mom, so I think that was sort of another character that became a favorite for me. I really just am looking forward to seeing what happens in the next book. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. A book that made me cry was This Close to Okay by Lisa Cross Smith. This is a book, it's a contemporary fiction. The main character is a black woman who is a therapist, and on her way home from the office one night, she sees a man about to commit suicide. He is standing like on the ledge of a bridge, and she talks him down, but she does not reveal that she is a therapist to him because she's afraid of how he will respond in that moment. So she talks him down off of the ledge, literally, and they go to a coffee shop and kind of strike up this conversation. She really is afraid that he is in such a vulnerable state that if she leaves him, he will finish what he started doing. So she invites him back to her home. The book takes place over a course of a weekend where they have this really, I mean, I believe the term would be like trauma bonding, but they have this really intense connection, and then we see the fallout of like the choices that they've made over the course of that weekend. I thought the story was beautifully written. It kind of gutted me at the end. I really enjoyed that we see this character who is a black woman who is really like allowed to exist like in her blackness without the trauma that we usually get from these characters. So she is from a like traditional family. Although I think her parents are divorced, they are like happily divorced. It is a functional family. She has an older brother who is an architect who is wildly successful. She is successful. She has the trappings of luxury, and she's just allowed to exist in that. And it was really like, I think those things are kind of really a revelation to read because we don't get them a lot in like contemporary literature, and I really loved the book. 11, a book that made you happy. And I think that is still this close to okay. Like, even though it deals with heavy topics, there, is a discussion of suicide. There is the loss of a child. There is like a traumatic sort of medical incident that happened. All of these things are very heavy. But I really enjoyed reading like a black woman who was secure in herself, who was professional, who was okay with spoiling herself with things that she could afford. She had a beautiful home. She enjoyed nice things, and she did not apologize for that. Can I help you? The most beautiful book that you have bought or been gifted this year. I don't buy books. I am a library reader. But if I had to pick a book that drew me in because of the cover, it would be The Lost Apothecary. It is a beautiful, the cover is absolutely stunning. I'm just disappointed by what was on the inside. 13 is a book that you need to read by the end of the year. I want to read Ace of Spades. I actually currently have it downloaded from the library. It is like a dark academia, YA, Gossip Girl, but make it black, and it seems really, really good. So I'm hoping to get to it in, well, I think I have 21 days before I have to return it to the library. So if you would like to do this video, consider this your tag and your chance to make a video with your mid-year book reflections and Freakout. If you have read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below. Is there anything that you're really excited to read for the second half of the year? Have you met your reading goals so far in this year? I don't know, but I would be happy to discuss it in the comments down below. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot, and consider subscribing. And if you've made it this far, thank you. I will see you in my next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.